Yeah.
Did you always know you wanted to be a coach, or is that something you decided maybe even when you played that 1 year in Italy?
Uh, I think it was kind of like a coincidence because I played football since I was very young. I started playing when I was 9 years old in Mexico. And in Mexico, the coaching profession develops in a different way. When you start to play high school football, everything is related to club teams. So when you start to play high school football level, you are asked by the club to coach the youth programs. And when you move on to the next level, you coach the lower level. So by the time I started to play college football at New Mexico State, I had already like 10 years of coaching under my belt. Of course, I mean, that coaching was not very professional. It was basically repeating what my coaches had told me. And now that I look back, some of those things that I was taught were not, they're very good techniques. But, like you are developing as a coach, sometimes you learn by trial and error. So, I guess I had it in my blood to be a coach, but I never considered it as a profession for me. Then, when I was in New Mexico State, once I finished, I had the opportunity to go to Europe, and when I got there, it was noticeable that they were in great need of coaching because you had just a bunch of guys running around. Maybe they had one coach, and that coach was not like very, very knowledgeable of what he was doing. So at that point in time, it was 1995. There were a lot of players from the U.S. and Mexico that would go there to play, and out of necessity started to coach. And then eventually, when they were too old, they just took over the program. And that was the intention of those teams, to have more dedicated coaches that had the knowledge and the techniques to develop those players, because there's a lot of talent over there. So I just started to do that, and slowly it became a bigger and bigger part of my life, and I ended up doing it full time. So that's how I became a coach, I guess.
You started as an offensive coordinator in Monterrey, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
You were a head coach in Spain, winning a couple of Spanish league titles, and in Italy, winning 2 Italian national championships. How different is coaching professionals in Europe compared to coaching college kids in America?
Well, I would say it's the main difference is just the age group. Mm-hmm. Over there you have grown men that are playing football. In some cases, that professional, adjective, it's misunderstood. They're semi-professional athletes. In some cases, you could say professional because they live off of what they make playing football, but by no means this is comparable to like the NFL, CFL, all those leagues. They make a good living. A good salary will equate to like what a regular person would make in any profession. But they also have those are the least of the teams. The majority of the teams have people that have regular jobs and they play football. So the difficulty is convince them that regardless of the amount of time you're going to practice, you need to make that time count, and you need to get them committed to do what you need them to do in order to be successful. And they have their money, and they go practice and play because that's what they like to do, but they don't need to be there. So if you make them mad, they'll just leave, and you're out of a team. The other problem is you need to understand their cultural differences. They are very sensitive to that. So they are never going to take yelling, screaming criticism from a foreigner that claims he knows about the game. And they say, well, I don't need to be here. I do this for fun. I enjoy it, but I work 10 hours a day, and I come out here to have fun, and the only thing I get around is yelling, screaming, kicking, like cursing. I don't need this. So, and like there's a lot of money invested. So, I mean, it's a different approach. You have to be very careful with the way you handle players, the way you relate to players, and like the overall environment where you're at. Yeah.
You mentioned the yelling and the screaming.
Yeah.
A lot of special teams coaches appear to be very animated and loud.
Yeah.
And is that your coaching style?
No, not at all. I think that I'm more like Coach Jones in that sense. Yeah, I will get a bit upset every now and then, but I very rarely raise my voice. If I do that, it's because they can't hear me, but not to address a particular problem or like a mistake. I feel that people understand better when you talk to them calmly, because if you start to yell and scream, they go into this defensive mode and they just tune you out. They won't hear. But that's my particular opinion. I mean, there's a lot of approaches, there's a lot of styles. Some people think that by doing that you will kind of like get their attention, they'll get motivated, they'll be challenged to show you that they can do it. I don't know, it might work for some players. For some other players, that's just not the way they operate. So I'm not like that at all. I guess when I started, and it was out of like copying what my coaches did to me as far as the way they coached me. It was like an imitation. It's like, okay, well, the louder you are, the better result you're gonna get. And over the years, I found that's not necessarily the case. So I think I'm more into like Coach Jones style, which is like just talk to the player, explain to them. They just need solutions, tools to get better, not criticism. So I don't know. That's just the way I handle it.
We've talked about the different places around the world where you've played and coached, and you have to speak more languages than anyone on the staff, maybe ever. You're fluent in English, Spanish, and Italian, and almost fluent in French and German. Yeah. Are we going to start seeing international recruiting around here?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of expensive, I guess, and that should be. That's not my call. I know there's a lot of players out there, but you need to actually take the time and like make a plan to go find those players. I know like I have to like follow the philosophy of our staff, and we'll see. But if there's an opportunity, I have some people that I know, and we could try to kind of like reach out and see if there's somebody that might be a good prospect for our program.